Okay, so I've cut the covers off an old exercise book and I've put some double-sided tape on them. These are reasonably sturdy. The spine is actually quite a bit thicker and they've all got the double-sided tape on them. So I'm going to use a combination of double-sided tape and this wet glue just to make sure it's really stuck down. This is just a piece that I've cut off an old shopping bag that I've used. I thought about having the pattern on the outside, but I don't want that showing, so I'm just going to have plain brown paper on the outside, and then of course it will be decorated. So you just want to line these pieces up. You want to leave about 1/8 of an inch between this spine and this cover, so that when the spine opens, it's not going to hit its butt against that. So about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to start off with the spine piece and just get this double-sided tape off and then spread that glue all over it, and I'll do that to all 3 pieces. Got a wet wipe here, so I'll put these 2 pieces roughly where I want them and put this spine piece down and just give that a really good burnish. Okay, and the same with these pieces. Okay, because that's a wet glue, I'm just going to leave that for a little while to just dry, and flip it over and just give it a really good push from this side as well, and just give that time to dry in place. Okay. And I'll be back in a little while. Okay, that's dry enough to continue on. So all I've done is I've gone around and folded and put a crease all the way around just to give me an idea of where the paper's going to fold. I've added some double-sided tape and I've folded each of the corners in just to give me an idea of cutting it. So I can see the fold line, probably can't see it on camera, but I can see that fold line there. I'm just going to cut, what I want to do is leave on this corner here, I just want to leave a little bit. So I'm just going to cut about 1/8 of an inch away from that line and do that on all 4 corners. And then I'm just going to start sticking these corners down. So I'll do the 2 side bits first. going to crease that down and just let that score tape grab and give it a really good score. And when I get to these corners here, I'm just going to score that in so that when that folds up, that little bit will just fold over. So I'll do that on both sides. And do the other end the same. Just push that up. And just push those corners in. And then we'll do the long sides. We'll start in the middle. And then just crease in that gap between the front cover and the back cover and the spine, and then just keep pushing that up. So you can see there on the corner that it's all covered. Just that little fold over, that'll be covered when we put the decorative paper on, and I'll do that on the other side. So again, I'm starting at the middle, just creasing down those folds, and then just really stretching and pulling that side bit up. Okay. So now, when the journal's going to fold up, just let that stretch into position, make sure everything's sitting nicely, and do the same here. There's a little bit of a resistance you can feel at first, and you just keep gently stretching that in. So now we've got the front and the back covered. And that's going to sit nicely and bend nicely now. So the next thing I've done is I've grabbed some papers from, this is from the Scrapbook Papers collection, and I've got a front cover, a back cover and a spine, and I've inked them, and I've put the double-sided tape on, and I will go through the same process of adding and smoothing out that glue, and then placing these all into position, making sure that everything lines up and there's an equal space between everything. And so that would be the front and back covers, and then I will do the same on the inside. Well, on the inside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a piece of paper that's wider than this spine, so it's going to come out to about there, and that will cover this spine and this bit of paper here. And then I'll choose my two panels front and back, and I'll glue them all on, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, I've done that. I've glued my images, so I inked around the outside of them, and I've glued my images, leaving an equal space. That's the front cover, and I've done the same on the inside. This piece extends out to here so that it completely covers the spine, and once again, once you glue it in, you do have to let the glue get very tacky and partly dry, and then just start gently bending the cover in, scoring it until it gets to the point where you can go past that 90-degree angle, and then just do the same on that side. And that's why you really need to leave that space when you're building the cover so that it can actually bend in and move. So that's my cover. And now what I'm going to do next is, because this is just paper and it would easily mark, I'm going to add a layer of this. So this is the vintage one. And I'll show you, I've just done a bit of a sample here to show you the difference. So on this piece of paper, I've put the collage medium on this side. And I'll just see if I can get the camera to pick it up. So you can see a slight gloss on that side and not on this side. So it just gives it that nice sealed glossy finish. And if you're careful with how you put it on, you don't get brush marks and lines in it. So I'll do that next. I'll just get it started and show you quickly what that's going to do. And I'll do that on, actually that's a good idea. That's the, we can pick it up. This has got the Distress Collage Medium on it. And you can see maybe just how it enriches the colour. It enriches the colour and just gives it a slight gloss. So that's the same browns. And then this has got the medium on it. It just enriches it colour. You probably just can slightly see the difference. So I'm going to do that, and on the outside of that cover. And I'll do that before I put any of my signatures in. The reason I chose lines here is because when I'm ready to glue these in, I'll be able to sit it and line it up and keep it really straight. So I thought that would be really helpful to do that. So I'm going to give this cover a gloss, and I'll cover all of the cardboard and the images as well. So putting this on, I have done it in the past and it's come out where you can see all the brush strokes. So I found a brush that has very even ends on it. It's a really soft brush, and as the bristles at the end are slightly apart, but as it goes down, it's a really smooth surface. So this is an Art Basics 3/4 inch, and it's got the little textures on the end. This is the one I found works the best. So I'll show you just on the spine my process for doing this. You grab an amount, just a small dab of this, and you start brushing it on in one direction. And I'm just going to get right to the edge because I want the cardboard covered too. And you just brush it all on in one direction. Keep adding little bits at a time. And your aim is just to get enough on here that you've got it nicely covered. And I'm just going to make sure I've got that side bit covered on both sides. Okay, so now it's pretty uneven. Now I'm just going to, and I hope I've got the lighting right so that you can see there. Okay, so you can see how uneven that all is at the moment. Now I'm just going to use the brush and just repeatedly go up and down the length of it. And I'm wanting to just keep going, and I'm using the tip of the end of the brush, but I'm also using this middle section that's really smooth just to pull that medium up and down. And I'll do that even while it's getting quite tacky now, and I'll just keep doing that, going up and down in the same direction. And you can just see if you can catch the light there. You can just keeping on doing that. It's quite tacky now, dries fairly quickly. And I just want to keep going until I'm happy. You need a good light for this, and you just keep going up and down until you're happy with how smooth the surface is. I found if you go the other direction, so if I was to go cross grain, then I would start getting lots and lots of lines. So any part that I think is not covered, I'm just going up and down. And it doesn't settle once you stop brushing. Any lines that you can see will appear in the product. So I'm just trying to make sure you can see. You just keep going until you're happy with it. And I'm mostly using this soft part of the brush in the middle. And as I said, if you just keep brushing for a little while, a couple of minutes, the product's quite dry now. And you just brush until you're happy with the finish. So let's see if I can pick that all up for you. So you can see you've got a really smooth surface and you can't see the brush strokes. So I'm going to do that, and that will be almost dry now. I'm going to do that on the front covers, and I'll probably do that on the inside covers, and I'll come back when that's done. Okay, so the cover has been covered and is dry. I've added a couple of book cover corners. These are just little brackets that you just push on and you squeeze them closed with a little pair of pliers. So they've been added, and that'll protect the corners. This will mean that it's if you spill water or something on it, or you've got grubby hands, it won't damage it. So that's my journal cover. Here's my signatures. So I'll just show you them sitting in the journal cover. You can see that it's a nice size. And if you have a look, these feature pages, so this is how I'm going to adhere these to the journal. So this little portion here, I just want to get a look and see. You can see that if I push back on this edge here, I can see for each of those three pieces, you can see how it's going to fit into the journal cover. And you can also see that if I sort of scooch things across to where I want them, I can see which lines I want to glue them on. So what I'm going to do is, just starting with this back cover, I want these two lines here. So I want these two lines on this striped paper to be in the centre of that tab. And that means that will, let me get rid of the other ones, that will just give me, if I put that in the centre, it just gives me a little bit of space to open the journal, and it gives me a nice line to go by. So that's how you sort of place them in. I've got making sure I've got everything up the right way. I just sort of moved around and had a look. I like that image next to that cover. That one would work as well, but that one didn't sort of stand out so much, so I liked that one. And then in the back cover, I've added this feature page that's still blank at the moment, and I liked that against that image. So there's my three signatures. On the backs of these two tabs, I've just put some double-sided tape, and I'll do this last one next. So you basically just want to get these strings. So this is the waxed thread. So I just want to get that out of the way, and just going to sit it on a little bit of glue just to sort of keep it tidy. And hold that for a second. And that will keep that out of the way. And then I just want some double-sided tape. Now, this doesn't have to cover the whole piece, it's just some extra grip. So I want some double-sided tape on there. And just burnish that on. Right, so this page, just making sure everything's the right way up. I want this page to be glued with those two lines in the centre of it, and I also want this to be in the centre of the journal. Let me just see, I've gone a little bit over with that tape. It'll be okay. Rightio. So I want these lines to line up exactly, so they'll be exactly fit between that, and I want to get that lined up, and if I sit that in there I can see exactly where I want that to go. So the next step, just make sure that's pushed down, is I'm going to take off this tape and I'm just going to push that in a little bit. It just went over just a little bit. Now I need a wet glue, so I'm going to use this one, but I'm going to make sure, I'm just going to put a little bit of baking paper and slide it under a little bit of that tab, just to make sure I don't go onto that. And I want to make sure that I put enough on and not too much. So I want to put enough on that I can spread it out, but not too much, because it will be very slippery when this glue is wet. So I just want to put some on. I've got a baby wipe ready in case I have put too much on. I'm just going to stand this up on its edge. I might just put a clip on that paper just to keep that in place. Okay. And I just want to smear this on and get a really good cover. And I don't want it to be so thick that it just slides everywhere when I put it into the journal. But I do want to get enough that it's going to make a good bond when it dries. Now I want to let it go a little bit tacky. Right, okay, so that's my glue on. Now placing it in the journal, so it's a good idea, I've got something heavy on this side. It's a good idea to have a couple of things that are heavy sitting around you so that you can put your signature in and then hold your journal up to keep the spine flat on the table and to give you some support you can clip that signature to that if you like. So I might just grab another couple of clips in case I need them. And making sure everything is up the right way. So that's the top. And this is the top. So I want to sit this now and get it so that it's flat on those lines where I want it. Just get rid of any excess glue that's there. Okay, so I know that these two lines, skinny lines here, need to be roughly in the middle of that tab, and that this tab will hit on that point. So let me just, I'm just going to sit that down. And this will slide around a little bit, so I'm just going to push. So I'm gripping the whole journal and signature and just pushing down. And if you can see, it's sliding a little bit. I just want to get that grip in place. Let me take these off now. So I just want to make sure that when I shut that cover, it's over a little bit too far. Just push it in a tiny bit. And see if I can just get in there with a baby wipe and just clean that up a little bit. Okay, so once that's grabbed, get rid of any excess glue, because it will dry clear, but it will also dry quite hard, set quite hard. So I'm just getting rid of any excess glue. You just want a reasonably good bond. Just double check that everything closes, and it does. And then the next step is to get your bone folder. And just really get in under and really just press that all down. So just double check that nothing has moved, that's going to close nicely. Everything's lined up with the top and the bottom. And even just doing this, so keeping the spine flat on the table and just pushing, will kind of even it up and scooch it across just a little bit if it needs to be. But that's sitting in there quite nicely. So you just need to just keep pressing that down. Get rid of any excess glue while it's damp if you need to. And then I've got my heavy weighted thing. I'm just going to sit that and lean it against that and let the signature fall the other way, and just go in on this side of that tab as well, and just really make sure that that's adhered properly. Again, just keep making sure that it's all in place. And just see a little bit of glue in there. Let me just get that. Okay. There's a little bit of glue at the top here. Just going to get rid of anything that's oozed out. And just make certain, because this is holding quite a bit of weight, so just make absolutely certain that you've got that pressed down nicely. And then I would leave that just balanced up there. Every few minutes just give it another really good squeeze. It needs probably a good 10 minutes or so to really make sure that glue has taken. And just keep working through it. So I would leave that for a little while, And once that's done, just clip this out of the way. No, clip it like that. So once I'm certain that that's dry, so this is up. So these are the next two. So the next one I would put in is this front one, because I want to make certain that there's enough room. This has got the pockets with all the tags in it. This is the filing cabinet drawer video with all of the tags in it, and it's also got this one, the sliding one, and it's got the tuck pocket here, the slot pocket here. So it's added quite a bit of bulk. So when I put this one in, I want to make certain that this one has got enough room so that that's not all squashed. And so I'll put that one in. I'll probably line that one up with this line here. This line here to give it enough space. Maybe, let me just see. This line here looks like it would work to give that enough space, and then when I'm happy with that one and that one has set, then I'll go and glue in the middle one. So it's the same process. You put the double-sided tape on, you add your wet glue, whatever you've got that you're using, something that's got a really good bond. Often anything that says that it's good for timber will hold this. Do your one signature at a time. Same with the front that I'm doing on the back here. Just really press it in, make sure there's room for it to move, and then it's nicely lined up. Get rid of any excess glue that might seep out before it dries, and glue your 3 signatures in. If you were going to do an eyelet, this is the time that you would put that in. So you would find your centre, put an eyelet in. I'm not going to for this journal, but if you were going to do that, you'd need to do that now. And then, so I'm just going to leave that alone for a little while, about 10 minutes, and make sure that when I come back, I'll give it another really good burnish. Just make sure that everything is really glued down. And then I'll do the front one, and then once the front one is on, you'll know. So I think I was going to line it up with, let me see, that line there. So once the front one is on, you can lay it out of the way, and then your back one doesn't necessarily need to center. Again, that's the front. This one has got the waterfall, which adds quite a bit of bulk. So this one, it won't be centered, it'll be placed where it needs to sit naturally. So it'll be slightly that way, because this is where all the bulk is in this front piece. And so that's what I'll do, and I'll show you the finished product in a few minutes. Just one last tip. I've got the 3 signatures in. I've done that same process, just burnishing it all down. I've made sure that my signatures are all evenly aligned, top and bottom. And you can see that the middle one is where it needs to be rather than centered. So the other thing that I do is I just run my bone folder into the middle signature of each page and just really press down from that middle seam as well. Go through all 3 of them and do that. And really now, it's a matter of, you probably need to sort of dedicate 15 minutes or so to just continually going down and pressing everything into position, making sure that nothing has lifted or moved. I've taken out a few of the heavier elements that were pulling pages down. and just getting rid of any excess glue. It kind of forms, this glue forms little like jelly squishy balls. If you get it when it's tacky, you can just roll it up and it peels off without damaging any of the paper, and you can just get it out. So it's just worth spending 15 minutes or so making sure that there's no glue where you don't want it. And that's it now. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it sitting between some heavy objects, and let it sit. Just keep an eye, make sure nothing is wanting to lift. Just keep poking the bone folder in and pushing things down. And that is it. That is, everything's in place where I want it to be. And this really needs, I would leave this for a few hours now, or if you're doing it late in the evening, just leave it overnight. And just really give it time to cure. And depending on the weather, that's going to take different times. It's pretty cold here at the moment, so yeah, maybe spin it around every now and then. Just check that everything's pushed in. You don't have to open everything again. You can just get your bone folder, or a ruler would probably do it as well, and just keep pushing everything down, making sure nothing's moved. You can see that it's all nice and neat, and just leave it alone and you've got a finished journal. Your signatures are done.